She started a fight over a dish towel. Not the color, not the fabric, just the way I'd hung it by the oven. She pinched the corner like it was a contaminated rag and snapped. Do you even look at this house? Or you just throw things and walk away? I picked up the towel, folded it once, hung it straight. Fixed. That's not the point, Melissa shot back. You don't care about details. You're sloppy. Then say what you mean, I told her. What's the actual problem? She rolled her eyes, stepped around me, and opened a cabinet as if she was searching for the truth on a shelf. Forget it. You wouldn't get it. Just try to act like you live here. I looked at the counter. I'd already set the coffee, loaded the dishwasher, swept up the salt she spilled last night and never touched. Okay, I said. I'll act like I live here. If I'd known where that little scene was headed, I would have cut the cord a month earlier. But I didn't. So I watched. I went to work. I run a small contracting crew, kitchens, decks, the kind of jobs where people want something solid and I deliver. My phone buzzed all morning with clients and suppliers. Not a single text from Melissa. At lunch, I sent her a picture of the broken fence I was replacing and wrote, "Want to do burgers tonight? I'll pick them up." No answer. At 6, I walked into a cold house and an open laptop on the dining table. She was in earbuds. I tapped the table. She glanced up like I was a warranty issue. Burgers? I asked. I already ate, she said, and pointed at her earbuds. I'm on with Kayla. I nodded, went to the fridge, and kept it simple. Scrambled eggs, toast, old tomatoes. She ended her call and walked past me like a hall monitor. When you use the pan, she said, don't put it on the wrong burner. Which one is wrong? The one that warps it. She waved at the stove. I explained this. You explained a burner has a personality? I slid eggs onto a plate. Must have missed it. She sighed and left. That night she turned her back and went to sleep like the wall had done something to her. I stared up and made a note to myself. This isn't random. The towel, the burner, the cold shoulder. It's a sequence. Next morning she picked another thread. I'd stacked the mail in 2 piles, junk and real. She held the real stack up. Why would you open my subscription? It was addressed to current resident, I told her. As in not you. She put it flat on the table like she was dealing cards. Please stop rifling through my things. Noted, I replied, and clipped the keys off the hook. Where are you going? To this place I apparently don't live in, I said. I smiled so she'd hear the joke. She didn't smile back. I drove to the lumber yard with the radio off, ran numbers in my head. We'd been married 6 years. She'd been sharp before, but not like that. Not dismissive just to prove a point. My instinct was to give it time. Not to chase, not to plead, just to keep doing what I do and see if it settles. That was my first mistake, and the last one I let stand. The next flashpoint hit that Friday. We had a standing thing with our neighbors, casual porch drinks after dinner. Melissa came down in a dress that said she'd spent time in the mirror. She took one look at me in a t-shirt and jeans and frowned. You're wearing that. It's a porch, not a banquet. You look like you just dragged yourself out of a garage. I work in one. I'm serious, she said. Maybe try to care. Go ahead, I told her. I'll meet you there. I've got a few emails. She left in silence. 10 minutes later I followed, walked up our block to where the lights glowed warm on Nate and Jessica's porch. People were already talking in groups, familiar Friday noise. Melissa stood with a circle of women, eyes bright, voice higher than at home. He installed the cabinet doors upside down, she was saying. I stepped in next to her. That was a joke you told yourself, I said. Oh, she gave a little jump. You made it. Is there another version? I asked the group. Because in mine the doors are correct. A woman I didn't know laughed into her cup. Melissa didn't. Anyway, she said, turning her shoulder as if I was a passing truck, we've been working on his attention to detail. It's a project. Nate's eyebrows rose over his glass. Jessica tapped my elbow and murmured, beer? I'm good, I told her, and I looked at Melissa. I'll lay out my detail plan right now. She blinked. What? 2 cars from this house on Fridays, I said calm. Separate arrivals, separate departures. I'm not sticking around to star in jokes. That's dramatic. It's a boundary, I replied. Ryan, we're just talking. I don't do just talking about me in third person when I'm there. I told the group, not angry, just clear. So I'll take off. Good night. I turned to leave. Jessica touched my arm. You sure? Yep. I walked home, not looking back. That was the first initiative. change the pattern, remove myself from rooms where I'm a prop. When she got back later, the house was quiet. I was in the garage, cleaning my tool bench, the one place that still respected logic. She came in, stood 5 feet away like she was at a museum exhibit. "So now you're the guy who storms off," she said. "No," I answered. "I'm the guy who doesn't volunteer for disrespect." "You can't always control what people say." "I can control whether I loan them my time." "I don't need this drama," she said. "Can you just adjust?" "Heard you loud and clear tonight," I told her. I adjusted. She rolled her eyes and left. I finished winding the extension cord and clicked off the garage light. The following week, I made a second adjustment. I moved our finances into clean lines. I took my paycheck direct to a separate account and set up a shared household transfer for bills and groceries. I taped a simple note on the fridge: "Joint essentials covered. Personal spending, do your own." I also posted my work schedule on the corkboard with a line at the bottom: "Unannounced visits to job sites. No." I didn't ask permission. I didn't explain. I just acted. Melissa saw the note at breakfast. "What is this?" she asked, tapping the paper. "Clarity," I told her. "It avoids arguments." "So you're limiting me." "I'm separating," I replied. "Bills get paid. Everything else is adult choices on our own dime. Saves us both a lot of speeches." She stared at the line about job sites. "Since when do I need an appointment to see my husband?" "You don't," I said. "You need an appointment to walk onto my client's property and critique me." "That's not fair." "It's respectful," I added. "It's new, and it's not a debate." That afternoon, the first illusion came. She texted me a picture of a meal prep container and wrote, "Made you lunch. Left it in the fridge. Sorry if I was sharp last week." It landed like an apology wrapped in tinfoil. I picked it up on my way out the next morning. Chicken and rice. A handwritten note on the lid: "You work hard. I see it." My foreman Jonah whistled when I pulled the container out on site. "Your wife making amends?" "She's making lunch," I said. He grinned. "I'll take that as a maybe." At home that night, she was warmer, almost the old Melissa, asking about the job, nodding in the right places. "Thanks for the lunch," I told her. "It was good." "I know I can be tough," she said, like she was negotiating with herself. "I want us to be on the same page." "Pages are open," I replied. For a day, the wind shifted. Then the pattern returned: short remarks, a laugh that landed like a pebble, new rules about small things that moved only in one direction. She forgot our Thursday dinner and booked a yoga class. She reminded me not to leave my boots by the back door, as if I'd recently started living in the house. When I wiped the sink, she inspected it, found an invisible water spot, and sighed like she'd been given a defective husband. Saturday morning, she came into the garage and leaned against the door frame. "I signed up for a weekend training next month," she said. "It'll help with my career pivot. I need the deposit from our joint. That's for bills." "It benefits the household," she said. "Then it belongs in your column." I answered, motioning to the fridge inside. "Clarity applies to both of us." She frowned. "You know I make less." "I don't control your income," I told her. "I set the boundary so we stop fighting about wants. You asked for me to act like I live here. This is what that looks like. So you're punishing me." "I'm protecting me," I replied. "There's a difference." She snapped her jaw shut and left the garage. I heard her text tone pinging as she crossed the kitchen. Another note in my head: illusion 1 failed to move me. Expect a bigger one later. 3 days later, she tried the public angle again. Nate and Jessica had folks over for a cookout. Melissa insisted we go together this time. "We should show them we're fine," she said. "Who's them?" I asked. "Everyone." "I don't perform fine," I told her. "But I'll come by." We walked over. The yard smelled like charcoal. Kids ran around with glow bracelets. I asked Nate about his fence, pointed out where it was starting to lean. Melissa floated between groups, loud enough to be heard. She zeroed in on a new neighbor, Tara, who said she worked in project management. "Project management," Melissa said. "That would be nice at my house, someone to keep him on track." Tara laughed politely. "He seems competent." "He's strong," Melissa said, and patted my shoulder like a coach. "But you have to double-check everything." I looked around at the faces, at the new neighbor trying to be gracious, at Nate avoiding my eyes. I set my cup down. "Melissa," I said, level. "Don't speak about me like I'm out of the room." "We're joking," she said. "I'm not." Relax, she muttered. You're making a thing. Not making anything, I told her. Fixing it. Tara cleared her throat. I'm going to check on the kids. I watched Melissa's jaw click. Can't you be a good sport? I am, I replied. Which is why I'll go. I told you the rule. 2 cars. She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked around like she needed an audience. I didn't give her one. I nodded to Nate and left. At home, I drafted an email to our mutual friend group. I'll be driving myself to group events for a while. Keeps the evening simple. No drama. Just new rules. Monday morning, the second illusion arrived, bigger and brighter. I found a folded card on the kitchen island. I booked us a weekend away. Spa, quiet, no phones. My treat. She stood there watching my face as I read it. That's generous, I said. I can't go. Her eyes flashed. Why not? I've got 3 installs and a deck tier down, I told her. And we don't do no phones. Clients pay me to answer. You can reschedule. I don't reschedule to prove we're fine. I put the card down. But you should still go. I'll transfer my half of the bills on Friday like always. Everything else is yours to plan. She stared at me, calculating. Then, like a quick costume change, her face softened. I'm trying here, she said. I see effort, I told her. But a weekend trip doesn't erase disrespect. Respect is daily. It's free. She scoffed and walked away. The card stayed on the island, pretty and pointless. 2 days later, she violated the job site line. I was at Mrs. Patel's kitchen, measuring the backsplash while Jonah pre-cut strips outside. The front door opened, and Melissa walked in like she owned the place. Hey, she sang. Brought coffee. Mrs. Patel looked up from her tablet, surprised. Hello. This is my wife, I explained. Melissa, this is Mrs. Patel. Hi. Melissa stepped forward with a practiced smile, putting coffees on the counter. I just wanted to see the progress. He tends to eyeball things. Melissa, I said calm. We have a rule. I'm just being supportive. Not here, I replied. Mrs. Patel raised an eyebrow, polite but wary. We're on a timeline. I'll be 2 minutes, Melissa said, and leaned across the counter, scanning the tile. See, this is why you need me. You always rush. Jonah stepped in from the yard and took in the scene. Everything okay? It will be, I told him. Melissa's leaving. Her eyes snapped to mine. Excuse me. Rule, I said again. No unannounced visits. Mrs. Patel, I'll discount today for the interruption. Mrs. Patel smiled. That's okay. I understand. Melissa laughed, light, fake. You're acting like I'm a stranger. You're acting like a supervisor, I answered. You're not. She lifted the coffee she brought for me, held it out, then pulled it back as if I'd failed a test. You don't deserve this. Then don't offer, I replied. She stood for a second, waiting for me to flinch. I didn't. She left with a toss of her hair. Jonah gave me the look guys give when they're glad they're not you. You're handling it, he said. Yep, I told him. Next line gets drawn at home. That night, I moved into the guest room. I put my clothes in the dresser, set my alarm, and left the master closet without commentary. Melissa watched from the doorway. So now you're packing up, she said. Real mature. Real clear, I replied. Guest room for me. Space is information. You're being cold. I'm being calm, I told her. There's a difference. She crossed her arms. Are we done? We're at a fork, I said. How we talk about each other decides what we do next. She huffed and left. I slept well for the first time in weeks. 2 days later came the kill turn, loud and unmistakable. She had her friends over on a weeknight, 3 of them, wine bottles open, laughter bouncing off the walls. I walked in from the garage and heard Melissa in the dining room. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was reaching for the water filter. The words hit like a switch. If I had a better option, I'd have left him already, she said, casual and cruel. Her friends gasped and laughed. I stepped into the doorway. The room froze. You do now, I told her, voice steady. Now you have no options. Be out by evening. She blinked like she'd misheard. What? You have 6 hours, I said. Pack. I'll put your boxes by the door. Keep what's yours. Take what's yours. The key stays. Her friend Kayla tried to smile. Ryan, we were joking. Then laugh on your way out. I answered. Melissa's eyes narrowed. You were listening? I live here, I replied. For a few more hours, so do you. She stood up so fast her chair scraped. You can't kick me out. This is my house too. It's my house, I told her, still even. It was my house before we married. Title stayed singular. You know that. I'm not debating. I'm acting. She started to laugh, ugly and high. You're not serious. Box tapes in the hall closet, I said. I'll bring it. Ryan. Kayla cut in, suddenly small. Maybe take a breath. I've been breathing for months, I replied. The air's stale. It clears tonight. Melissa shook her head, tried to soften her tone, tried on another mask. We were joking. You're overreacting. I didn't answer. I went to the hall, grabbed the packing tape and a stack of flattened boxes, and set them on the dining table. I didn't slam anything. I didn't lecture. I went to the bedroom and started laying her things in neat folded stacks. Clothes, shoes, toiletries. I set aside her keepsakes. I left the wedding photo where it hung. I wasn't sanitizing the place. I was removing chaos. Melissa hovered at the doorway. This is insane. It's organized, I said, which is new around here. Stop packing my stuff, she snapped. Then pack it yourself, I told her. 5 hours, 52 minutes. Where will I go? You're resourceful, I answered. You'll figure it out. You wanted options. Here's one. You can't do this to me in front of my friends, she said. You did this to yourself in front of them, I replied. Kayla shifted, cheeks pale. The other friend grabbed her purse. We should. Yeah, Kayla muttered. We should. They left quickly, not looking at me. Melissa followed them to the porch, whispering into her phone. I kept packing. When she came back in, her voice had flipped again, softer, careful. Can we talk? She asked. We are, I said. Not like this, she pleaded. Give me tonight. We'll reset in the morning. No, I replied. Respect doesn't reset. It either exists or it doesn't. Today it doesn't. You're making a mistake, she said, voice climbing. I'm correcting one, I told her. She tried the last defense. She raised her voice and accused me of listening at doors. I shrugged. Hearing words in my kitchen is not a crime. Saying them is a choice. She called me controlling. I explained the difference between control and consequence. She tried to cry. I handed her a box. By 8:30, her things were lined up by the door, boxes labeled, bag of toiletries on top. I put her winter coat over the stack because the night was cool. She grabbed a duffel and stood there, shaking with anger that had nowhere to go. You're going to regret this, she said. No, I answered. I'm going to sleep. She opened the door. I held out my hand. Keys. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Then she fished the ring from her purse and dropped it in my palm. You're unbelievable. I finally agree with you, I replied, and closed the door behind her. That was the end, and that night was quiet. In the morning, I drove to the county building at 8, filed the papers, simple, clean. We had no kids, no joint property besides the car she drove, which was in her name. The house, tools, truck, all mine before. I texted Jonah. I'll be an hour late. He replied with a thumbs up and a short, good. At lunch, Melissa called from a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail. The message was a mash of sweet and sharp. We can talk. We can go to a counselor. We can make rules. Don't throw everything away because of one line you didn't like. I forwarded the message to my email and deleted it from my phone. I sent her a text. I'll coordinate a time to exchange anything left. Communication by email only for logistics. That was it. No speech, no second act. That afternoon, she showed up at my job anyway, trying to force a conversation in the driveway. Jonah stepped in front without a word. He's working, he said. You need to leave. She pointed at me over Jonah's shoulder. You can't shut me out. I'm not shut, I told her. I'm finished. She looked at the house, the crew, the clients in the window. Her face changed again, soft, pleading, then hard. You're ruining your reputation. Every man on this street just watched me hold a boundary, I replied. I'll be fine. She left. That was the last time I saw her in person. The rest was logistics by email, 2 exchanges in the driveway with her friend standing in for her, a short list of items to return. No drama. I changed the locks, changed the alarm code, removed her from the power account, canceled the shared streaming. Not petty, just practical. I asked Jessica to return a sweater that had been left at their place. Jessica handed it to me with a look I didn't need explained. Glad you did it calmly, she said. Chaos is easy, I told her. Clarity is work. She nodded. If you ever want to sit on the porch without an audience, come by. I might, I said. Not yet. There was a dip in the days after. The house was quiet, Too quiet, like a shop after closing. I didn't mind it. I found the right volume for the music in the garage. I cooked simple food and ate it without commentary. I slept in the guest room because it was already mine. I kept my circle tight. Jonah, my brother Peter on the phone, and Mrs. Patel, who gave me a bag of cookies and said, "Men like you are rare. Keep your standards." 3 weeks later, the paperwork moved along the track. No arguments because there was nothing to argue. We had a document from before we married. It did exactly what it was supposed to. The house stayed mine. My tools stayed my tools. The truck keys stayed on my hook. Her email came through once more, long and sentimental, ending with, "You'll never find someone who understands you the way I do." I didn't reply. The last illusion of change had died the night she said she'd leave me for an upgrade. I wasn't waiting for her to understand what I'd understood the second I heard it. There's no path back from contempt. The piece people tend to ask me about is the why. Why not fight? Why not plead? Why not try one more program, one more trip, one more excuse? I don't deal in excuses. I deal in respect. It's either present or it isn't. Once it's gone, you can't decorate the absence. You can only replace the room. I replaced it with a life that fit. I bought a small place by the lake that needed work. The yard was all slope and weeds, the kind of job that would have made Melissa sigh and call it sloppy. I called it Saturday. I put in a retaining wall with my own hands, stone by stone, level and true. I built a deck that hugs the waterline and set a quiet chair at the corner where the sunset throws a path of light. I invited people who actually enjoy being where they are. Jonah brought over his wife and their kid, who turned my scrap lumber into a fort behind the garage. Peter drove up and we grilled simple food. No critiques, just a few good laughs. Work took off. Turns out when you cut out a daily fight, you have a lot more room for jobs. I hired another guy, Luis, who laughs quietly and works clean. We booked through fall. I set hours that respected me. Phones off at 8, on at 6. Clear lines draw the right people. My clients recommended me because I showed up when I said and did what I promised. That's all most of life is, showing up and doing the thing. I met someone later, not because I hunted, but because I had space. Her name is Dana. She runs a small mortgage office, sharp as a nail, with a laugh that lands warm and doesn't aim at anyone. We met at a fundraiser my brother dragged me to. She wasn't impressed by my truck or my tools or the fact that I fixed my own deck. She liked that I listened and didn't waste words. Our third date was at the lake. She stood on the deck, looked at the handrail, and said, "You do clean work." "Thank you," I told her. "I try." She didn't ask for a performance. She didn't test every sentence for weakness. She poured a glass of iced tea and asked me about my day like it mattered. We kept it simple. She had her own place, her own car, her own plans. We shared weekends and left the rest alone. Adult. As for Melissa, I didn't track her, but news travels in a neighborhood. She'd moved into a small apartment near downtown. She rotated between friend groups. People stopped inviting her to couples nights because she couldn't keep from staging the room. She texted Kayla at one point that she missed the stability. I only know that because Kayla said it to Jessica, who mentioned it to Nate, who told me with a shrug while we were setting a post in his yard. "I don't need to hear it," I told him. "I figured," he said. "You're better now." I am. Not because I won anything, but because I stopped losing myself to someone else's ratings. The last words I said to Melissa were the last ones I needed. The final thing I did in that house, a simple, exact thing, closed the door on a chapter that had already ended. Sometimes people try to pry out a moral from me, like there's a sermon hidden under the lumber. There isn't. There's just a rule: don't negotiate your dignity. You won't like the price. If a person tells you where they stand, especially when they think you're not listening, believe them. Then act in a way that makes you look in the mirror and nod. The night before I moved to the lake, I stopped by the old house to pick up the last box, a crate of dull kitchen knives I planned to sharpen for the cabin. I walked through empty rooms that still held the shape of our life. The nail holes in the wall, the spot where I used to drop my keys, the sound of nothing. I set the last key on the counter, the one Melissa used to circle like a shark, as if a keyring was the crown of the realm. I stood in the doorway for a second and spoke to the air because it helped close the loop. "This house will be quieter now," I said. "It'll be better for it." Then I left. The lake waited. The deck held. The chair at the corner faced west. I sat, and the water kept its promise. It reflected what was real and let the rest go dark. That's the story. A towel, a burner, a joke turned into a line, and a line turned into a door. I didn't slam it. I closed it. And when I walked away, I didn't look back because I didn't have to.